Hello, welcome, Marlene here. I just wanted to say how you doing, how you feeling, how you holding up. The state of the world is pretty crazy. Today's cookie tutorial is not really themed. It was a therapy session basically. I was looking through my cutters and this one spoke to me. I cookied the ears, and I think you could tweak it to make a pointed ear, make a cat version, maybe some floppy ears for a dog. Not really themed today, just creativity to feed the soul and stop thinking about the craziness that's happening. So I hope all of you are healthy and safe, and let's get into today's cookie tutorial. I'm working on a mitten cookie that I cookied into a bear, and if you look carefully here, when the cookie was frozen I notched the top here and I added my little sections like a jigsaw puzzle. They fit perfectly. When you work with frozen cookies, they don't shift around as you handle them. I'm lining my template about to the crack of the thumb there, and I'm placing that, and then in a kind of the same color that I'm working in, a blue, just to avoid any bleeding issues or any kind of problem. I'm working in a similar color. I avoid adding my guidelines in black. The marker can sometimes seep into your actual cookie. So I'm just quickly running through the design. I'm going to take that to about here, and I'm not adding the ears just yet. And as you can see here, I flipped the design over for the set so that I would have it kind of both ways to look like a real set of mittens. Like that. My little section on the little hand. Taking my icing to about the cuff, like that. Now that I've got my guidelines on, I'm just outlining it in icing. I'm creating a dam here at the bottom. This won't be visible, but I want to have that hidden. I want to hold my icing in, I mean. And now let's just outline all this, hiding the cookie portion. There. Let's outline the face detail. Next step, I'm flooding all this. I want to have a smooth surface since I'm planning, I might change my mind, but I'm planning on adding a stencil to the top, so I need it perfectly flat. I'm connecting to that blue outline, which will be very slightly visible once this is all done, because I'm coming in with icing on both sides. And so when you fill on both sides of an outline, there's very little of it that's actually exposed on a finished design. Now a shake to smooth it out, and that's it. We'll be ready to move on once this dries. Here's my mitten. It's dried overnight. I'm stenciling a little bit of knit on it. Here you can see I'm running just a stripe of it down the middle. So the first thing I'm doing is marking my center. Having trouble finding that with my stencil now that it's all masked up. I've masked a large portion of the stencil. As you can see here, I just want that center. And if you look at the stencil, one end is more rounded than the other. So I'm using this at the top of the mitten where his kind of like forehead is. And I'm running that crisscross down the center, and this mark helps me know here where the center is. You can see this one, it's a little skewed because I didn't do that step and I couldn't see So I'm resting this well onto the cookie and I'm aligning down. I can't use the holder, the stencil holder. It's just not allowing the size of the cookie and the stencil and all that. So I have to hold it with my hand. And I'm just stenciling my 2 sections here. You're going to have to clean up the opening on the face because that's all open. There's no icing there. So let's lift this off and you can see there's a big cleanup to do. So first thing down here, we're just taking off. Because of the roundness up top, we get a nice shape at the top of the head, but all over here we have to clean up. So this is a bit fiddly. There. Okay. So we'll be able to fill in these sections. So the great thing about not having the icing in these sections, well, they'll be pristine when we fill them in. You see? So now we'll fill in all these other little sections and we don't have to worry about a messy look. My knit section has had time to dry. And now I'm using my actual cookie cutter so I can get this other arm, which is the thumb, the same size. So I'm just resting that on my dry icing and I'm just tracing on the inside of the cutter the thumb. And here I'm just adding this a bit rounded. And then you know exactly how big to make that little other arm. Here's the next step to the bear. He's coming along, adorable. And here is my guideline for the arm. And now I'm going to be filling in all my sections. Ideally, I'm using the same color, just really much lighter. As you can see, there's like a huge difference between the 2 sections. So it's a really light blue. And we want to get this to heel over so we have a smooth section. And then I'm going to fill in the eye area here, which I'm using an 8mm pearl in the wet icing to make his eyes. I want it to look more like an actual toy, and they use like these kind of black plastic eyes, and I thought that's what was going to kind of achieve the best look. So let's just shake this to get the icing to smooth. We want to add the pearls to this wet icing. A good shake. And now to the wet icing, as close to the nose as you can get, and press them all the way in. You want them well embedded in that icing. Press like that, okay? And then you can fill the rest of the nose, but this layer of icing will be hidden, so it doesn't matter if this isn't very, you know, nicely done, the nose area. It's going to be hidden. So this is more or less kind of a guideline, the nose area, for you to know where to pipe the second layer of icing, okay? And now I'm adding my ears one at a time. My icing is on the stiff side, so I want to make sure I can get it to heal. And if it dries, well, that makes that trickier, so I'm just going to hold off doing one by one. And now outlining the light icing like so, and then move on to this side. Okay, and another shake. So we've got our ears on, and now I'm using the blue icing from the base and adding his second arm on the cookie here. And a shake. And there's our little bear. If your icing is not super smooth, it doesn't matter. This is supposed to look like kind of felt. So if there's a bit of like rippling or anything, it just kind of makes it look a little bit more handmade, kind of like a crafted mitten. And there. And now I'm working in a stiffish icing. I want each kind of movement of the icing to hold. I'm starting here and I'm doing a circular motion. And then I'm flipping it and going the same thing, but it looks slightly different because I flipped the cookie. And this is the cuff on our little mitten cookie. And you just repeat flipping each pass. Here we've got 2 more I think we can fit in. And then in the wet icing, we're going to put in a fondant button. There. Okay. Once this has had a bit of time to dry, I'll come in and add like a little stitch in those holes. But there's our little, it looks like he's wearing a hula skirt. He's doing the hula. Here's my little mitten. I think he's so cute. Okay, so I had black jelly beans and just worked out that way. And look at how cute that black jelly bean is fitting on the face. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using that. And now I'm just adding a mound of icing right here in that base icing that I had before. Okay, so you don't want to have too much of it. You don't need to have the nose be super high. And now I'm adding a dot. This is old rose, dusty rose it's called. And I'm pulling the dot up to where the jelly bean is going to go. And then in that, I'm dropping into the wet icing that jelly bean. Now, this is a Jelly Belly. They print on them, so make sure that you put the print down so that you don't have Jelly Belly written in the middle of the bear's face. And there is our little bear. I'm going to add a little stitch to the button here. And a little stitch right here. And done. Here's a close-up on his face. It was a success as far as clearing my mind for the time I was working on these. How are you guys holding up? Is all this stressing you out? If you want to kind of share what's going on in your area and maybe we can, you know, distract each other. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being here. And like I said in the beginning, I hope you're safe and healthy. I'll see you next time.